CEO is one of the biggest fighting game tournaments of the year. It's all going down this weekend, so I thought it would be fun to look through the bracket, see who all is attending, and take a guess at who will come out on top. This event is part of the Rivals 2 Championship Series, meaning that going for the gold here has more importance than just winning a major, since the results from this bracket will likely set the pace for the rest of this year's competitive season. To kickstart the video, I'll be breaking down the top 8 seeds and go over some of their recent results. Then, I'll check out some of the lower seeds that I think could make an interesting run or cause some kind of upset. And I'll end us up with a chart guesstimating who has the most likely chance to win, in my opinion. Our first seed for this bracket is Marlon. He's in my opinion one of, if not the most dominant player in Rivals 2 currently. He's played both Arcane and Raster recently, with Raster taking up most of his recent big tournament runs, most notably his big win in the Rivals Championship Series online event hosted by Hungrybox. He also has mentioned that he still has a Maple, but we haven't seen him use her recently, so I'm not sure if he's just mentioning that she's a fun little pocket, or if he's actually wanting to bring her out on the big stage in the big bracket. I think he's a strong contender to win the bracket, and deserves this top seed. However, we have seen him get upset in events like Genesis X before, so I definitely do think that he's not infallible. I wouldn't bet my life savings on him, it's not a lot, but I think that if we were to see Marlon get upset anywhere in bracket before top 8, it'd probably be against Sinbad's Maple in the top 8 qualifier round. Marlon was also upset by Plup back at Genesis X, and Plup plays Maple, so I think that Sinbad might be seated a little lower than I would rank them, and would be a notable upset. I don't think it's impossible for Sinbad to squeak out a win here though, but we'll have to see. Moving on to our second seed, we see that we have Cake Assault. Cake is personally who I would bet on winning the bracket, not purely because I think he's leaps and bounds better than Marlon, but more so because he's one of, if not my favorite top player currently. Recently, he's had pretty solid event results, getting first at Combo Breaker and Supernova, while getting second at Genesis X and the Hungrybox Rivals Championship Series event. He hasn't fought Marlon offline in a while, but he doesn't have the best streak in the matchup against our top seed. Cake has recently played a handful of different characters at a bunch of different events at high level. So if you're only able to watch part of the bracket, but want to catch a variety of characters and see high level counterpicking, I really suggest checking out his sets in particular. I've already mentioned that I think that Cake has a small chance to upset Marlon, but I think that Cake also has a chance of being upset by Backpack, a high-level Rano player in Winners Top 32. Backpack is one of the players ranked outside of the top 8 that I have my eye on to make big waves in this bracket, so I'm hoping to see them do well this weekend. Before we hop over to our third seed, I do want to let you know about a giveaway going on right now on the channel that's ending actually pretty soon. I had a friend pass me a Valhalla Hockey Loxodont skin code, and I'm sharing the love and sending it on to one person that comments on one of my videos before the big patch this upcoming Tuesday. All you gotta do is leave a comment here, or on any of my other videos, and you'll get a chance to win. Using the creator code LASTSTALK also helps me out a ton, and will let you get some extra Ether bucks back. It allows me to fund cool giveaways like this and give back to the community. Speaking of giving back though, let's get back to the video. Checking out our third seed, we have Stango. I think there's a pretty big gap in power level between our top 2 seeds and everyone below them. But if someone was going to upset Cake or Marlon in top 8, I would imagine it'd be Stango. Stango's placed really highly with Zetterburn in events like Genesis X. He also has good scores in multiple coin boxes and did well at Combo Breaker. He has a handful of wins on Marlon and other top players like Ion and Rongunshu, so I could really see a big breakout run from him. Sadly, however, his first match of top 8 is against Cake Assault, who he's 0-9 on currently. I could imagine him squeaking out a win, but it would be unprecedented. Our fourth seed is ZB the Crag player. He is personally one of my favorite players to watch on the big stage. ZB has a pretty tricky bracket path going forward though, having to fight Vibe for 4th and Stango to be able to make it to losers finals. I think it's definitely possible that ZB wins both of these matchups, but I could also see them going the other way, since, as I mentioned, everyone outside of the top 2 are kinda close in skill. ZB, however, did get 5th at the most recent Genesis tournament, and has good placements online as well. He got 2nd and 3rd at Gommel and Supernova respectively, so I could definitely imagine him upsetting Marlon as well in their Winners Top 8 match. But I don't think it's super likely. I mentioned it earlier, but part of the reason why I said ZB has a hard bracket path is definitely due to him playing Crag. Crag currently is really strong in my opinion. However, I think that players are figuring out how to push their advantage further, and the patch that CEO will be played on isn't one where characters have been tuned down to match that just yet. I have a feeling we might see ZB get upset by someone like Sofilo in top 32 because of this. However, ZB has also been pretty consistent with their placement, so I think it would be a decently notable upset if it were to happen. Speaking of Sofilo, she's our 5th seed. I know I've talked really highly about all the other players so far, but she's also one of my favorites to watch, and seeing her improve at the game super quickly and climb the ranks to be a top player has been really awesome. So she's who I'm personally cheering for to win the event, even though if I don't think it's the most likely outcome. This is the last event before the big Zetterburn nerfs hit the game as well, so I imagine that she'll be making the most out of it. As I mentioned, I could see her upsetting ZB in Winners Top 8 qualifiers, which would have her face against Marlon in Top 8 winners. I sadly can't imagine her winning against him since he's proven to be difficult for her in the past. However, Orcane is pretty bad into Zetterburn, meaning that we'll most likely see Marlon swap to Raster for this set. And if the Raster is not properly warmed up, that might be something that she can take advantage of. This is definitely all assuming that she does upset ZB, and not based on seeding. So it's kind of unlikely to even happen, but I'm hoping for a really big run for Sofilo this weekend nonetheless. Our other 5th seed is the recent breakout Claren player Vibe. Vibe's placed pretty well at big events, with their most notable placement being 3rd at Combo Breaker recently. They have a win on Stango, so I imagine if they do end up playing, it could kinda go either way. However, since Vibe is so new to competing, we don't have as much data on them at the top level. Truthfully, I can imagine Vibe getting upset in losers top 32 by someone like Dakpo. But since they've never fought before, I can't really predict this too accurately. I've heard that Claren does do pretty well into Raster, which might prove to be a problem here for Dakpo in this specific matchup. But I could see either player winning and moving on to top 8 if they do end up fighting in the losers qualifiers, as the seeding predicts. For our first 7th place finisher seed, we have Elkies. Elkies is in my opinion one of the most exciting Maples to watch due to how far she pushes Advantage. However, she doesn't have quite the same caliber of results as the players above her. I could imagine her getting upset in top 32 by someone like Ant in Winners, or Cheesy Potato in Losers. They're currently 1-1 on each other right now, so this kind of upset wouldn't be a long shot. However, Maple does do really well into Crag, so I think that Elkies being seeded to win here makes a lot of sense. Our last top 8 seed is Sinbad, another Maple player. Sinbad is a bit more consistent than Elkies, but they don't have as many big wins. So I think their seed being about the same makes a lot of sense. Sinbad is also another player that placed well in some of the coin boxes, and they even won the Luminosity Makes Moves event last year. Outside of that, however, they haven't had too many majors under their belt. If I had to guess, Sinbad will probably either make a very deep run, upsetting a lot of players, or could possibly get upset themselves in top 32. It's kinda hard to guess since their top level placements are so rare due to their lack of attendance. This isn't to say that they're bad or not deserving of this high seed, it's just hard to pinpoint exactly where they'll land at the end of the day. That goes ahead and wraps up our top 8 seeds, but I did want to talk about a few players that are seated outside of the top 8 that I think could make pretty deep runs as well. I already mentioned Backpack, Dakpo, and Cheesy Potato. I think all 3 of them have a good shot at breaking into the top 8. They all have solid past performances, and they only need 1 or 2 upsets to break into those coveted spots. A few other players that stand out to me that aren't in the top 8 are Ant the Rano, who has similar results and wins to our top 7 seeds, and Lucius, another Rano with similarly high scores. Most notably, they have 2 wins on ZB and a win on Switch, meaning that they definitely have the ability to reach top 8 with an upset or 2. Finally, to wrap us up, I wanted to quickly break down who I think will win the event based on the data we've gone over today. I personally think that Marlon has about a 50% chance to win. He is the most consistent player here, and I think he needs to be upset pretty early in the bracket to actually not get the win. I think Cake could pull off a win against Marlon, but I'm not sure if Cake could take 2 sets in a scenario where they have to play in winners and grand finals. It wouldn't be impossible, but if I had to guess based on their past set scores together, Marlon would have the upper hand here. Speaking of Cake Assault, I'll give him about a 25% chance of winning. I think he really has what it takes to get the dub, but as I mentioned, that would probably rely on Marlon either being upset early, or him getting an unlikely 2-set win against him. It's definitely not impossible though, which is why I have Cake ranked as our second most likely to win player. And finally, I think about everyone else has another 25% chance of winning. It's not that I think another player has the same chance as Cake here, but if I were to tally up the other players in bracket, I think all of them combined would have about the same chance to win as Cake. The skill gap between these top 2 players and the rest of bracket is pretty clear to me. However, I think that upsets could happen that would allow for a player like Stango, ZB, or even Sofilo to take the crown. Let's say Marlon got knocked out of winners pretty early. I could imagine ZB winning his winners top 8 matches, and then winning Grands if he's forced to fight the right people. This could be said for anyone though, truthfully, but I don't think it's the most likely outcome, since as I mentioned before, there would need to be a notable amount of upsets to cause this. It's very far from impossible, but I personally wouldn't bet any money on a player winning outside of Marlon or Cake Assault. These numbers I did mark up really quickly, and I think it also really depends on who each player chooses to go. Let's say that Cake decides to go Zetterburn for this bracket. That might give him a big advantage that I wouldn't be calculating for these percentages. With that being said though, let me know if you think I got anything here wrong. Is there a player that you think will have a breakout run, or that you're cheering for this weekend? Let me know. This is my first competitive news roundup, and I'd definitely like to do more. So if this is something that you love, or you'd like to hear more of it, send me some feedback. Speaking of feedback, I also made a player feedback poll asking players to rank who they think the hardest character in the game is. If you want your response featured in an upcoming video, feel free to fill it out in the description down below. Thanks tons for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now!